The Cinder King finished his drink, then returned the Sun Heart to its place. He rounded the room, passing behind one of the charred, whom he seized by the throat. He squeezed, and the poor man didn't fight back, barely even struggled.
I am the most powerful man on Canticle, Offworlder. You see how they can't protest or resist? How they serve me regardless of how I treat them. I have absolute power over these. Once, before I rose to my destiny, I was the man who marched prisoners to their fates. There I realized the true power is not in the ability to kill, but in the ability to control the killers.
Well, that's a perfectly normal and reasonable way of thinking, the Knight observes sarcastically. I'm sure he's absolutely the most well-adjusted man on the planet.
Nomad wished that this sort of sentiment was rarer. He'd seen it in guards, in watchmen, in soldiers. He saw it in the eyes of anyone who got a thrill from having others in their power. The stronger the person they could push around, the more intoxicating they found it. This man might not be brilliant or clever, though he'd think himself both. Truth was, he didn't need either to be dangerous. Because he had power, and power, wielded by a fool, could crush anyone, smart or not. These types always gravitated toward positions of authority. During the time he'd been in command, Nomad had been forced to learn to spot them. If you didn't, then, well, this happened. They grew, like a nest of rats. The worst kind of bully. Many were deeply afraid, which was why they lashed out. Those you could eventually help. This kind of man, though? Well, it was refreshing. He'd faced far, far too many enemies with pictures from their kids in their pockets, killed far too many people who never deserved it. But here was a man Nomad could run through with a hot poker and only feel bad for the poker.
What is it you want, Offworlder?
The Cinder King finally let go of his Chard, who fell to his knees. Nice to know they could be strangled. That didn't work on all invested beings.
I'm a simple man. I run. I just want to stay ahead of the people hunting me.
The Cinder King turned to the front of the cabin, where the open doorway to the pilot station let them see the windshield, and beyond that, the horizon, where light was growing ever brighter.
Understandable. I can protect you from those chasing you.
Yeah, all right, sure. Good luck.
Stop laughing at me.
Oh, don't worry. I'm allowed to laugh at kings. I've got a card somewhere from my master granting me authorization.
He shook his head. Damnation, that was good liquor. He almost felt something from it. A very, very light buzz, and it took a lot to get through his body's protections. An official entered and whispered something to the Cinder King, and some of his good humor returned. A moment later, 2 more entered from the deck, dragging Rebecca. Her hair loose from its braid, her mouth gagged, her eyes wild as she struggled. Nomad snapped the shot glass down on the counter. The Cinder King, misinterpreting the motion, smiled more deeply. He slipped a handgun from a holster at his hip and pointed it at the young woman.
Oh, the Knight says. Up until this moment I thought he might actually be smart.
Compassion? From one such as you? I expected more from a man of your world. After all my studies, I expected you to be ruthless.
The official continued whispering to the Cinder King, and Nomad picked out the words entire city and prospectors. The Cinder King's frown returned, and he thought for a moment, clearly aware of the area they were in. His eyes flickered to the safe on the wall where he likely kept his key, the one replaced with a fake in the chaos of the surprise attack. He was putting it together. Damnation.
You should have kept reading. It's not compassion that drives me, Cinder fool. It's not ruthlessness either.
He took a pointed step forward, putting himself closer to the Cinder King and toward the line of sight between the man and Rebecca.
I really do only want to get away. But there's one thing you need to know about my people. You promised me no tricks, and you should never break an oath to a Rosharan.